Greetings. Happy Friday. Welcome to the Steve Deace Show here on Blaze TV, radio, and podcast. I am yours truly. He is Todd Erzin. He is Aaron McIntyre. Going to be joined by one of our editors here at the Blaze, Chris Bedford, for the Deace Group here in just a moment. He's there. You know he's looking dapper because he's there in D.C. where all the finest people reside. Little tongue-in-cheek to kick us off, eh? Huh? No? And
Normally you totally gloss him by how much better he just looks than us, but I got a sense that now you're going to humble him a little bit.
Maybe give him a haircut or two.
Maybe we are his betters.
Yeah, maybe we are. And we are brought to you by our friends over at Jace Medical. What I love about Jace is when they chose to come on board our show, it was in direct response to what they were seeing happen at the tail end, after the tail end of the scamdemic, with things like hydroxychloroquine and ivermectin being denied people. And we never really got a fair hearing. Lots of great anecdotal evidence out there that those things worked. But of course, they didn't want to study them because then they couldn't sell you a failed cancer drug with a black box warning that didn't stop you from getting COVID, but may have stopped your kidneys instead. And they couldn't give you a toxic, poisonous jab that they now want to say, well, there's safety concerns. You guys see that report yesterday? You know, even my wife was like, get the bleep out of here with this. Okay, Come on. All right,
I've been
come on.
for a while now.
Yeah. So anyway, get your Jace case, get a backup of some of the most important medications in the history of humanity, who, you never know, might be the next ones to be targeted for smearing when we need them the most. And you can add the aforementioned ivermectin as well. There's all kinds of customizable options with the Jace case. Go to jase.com, jace.com, enter the code DACE at checkout. You'll get a discount when you do with the code DACE at checkout at jace.com, Jase. Also with the code DACE, you'll get a discounted subscription here at Blaze TV. So this is the Christmas shopping season. If you are looking for the ideal gift for the Patriot that you want to buy for this Christmas, or maybe that Patriot is you, get him a subscription to Blaze TV for a year. If you order now, you'll be taken care of all the way through the next crucial midterm election cycle and all the great coverage from people like Chris Bedford right here, and maybe even us if we're lucky. Everybody here on Blaze TV. You get everything, all the exclusive stuff we do for subscribers too. And then go back, hey, maybe you have never been a subscriber before. You can go back and watch stuff from, days gone by, a Glenn Beck special you always wanted to see, for example. With the promo code DACE at blazetv.com/DACE. Use the promo code DACE. You'll get $20 off your annual subscription with the code DACE at blazetv.com/DACE. All right, next hour, it'll be a Feedback Friday, but let's kick this thing off with the Deace Group. And there he is, the always dapper Mr. Bedford, and your weekly look at the week that was begins as it always does with issue 1, bleep, Lord Nefarious Says.
This is not a church service. This is a training being run by Siembra, North Carolina. It's called Safe to Work, Safe to School. All those people are here because they do not want Donald Trump's masked arms federal agents on the streets of Charlotte. They watched what happened in LA, they watched what happened in Chicago, and they're all here to be trained about how to get their neighbors and their friends and their coworkers safely to work and safely to school to push back on the Trump administration on what they are doing.
This administration is pitting our uniformed military
and intelligence community professionals
against American citizens. Like us, you all swore an oath
to protect and defend this Constitution.
Right now, the threats to our Constitution aren't just coming from abroad,
but from right here at home. Our laws are clear. You can refuse illegal orders.
You can refuse illegal orders.
You must refuse illegal orders.
We often hear that it's accompanied with that as well. You must assimilate. I shouldn't put out a magazine that's in 2 languages. Why can't you speak English? Why are my videos subtitled in Arabic? Why is my caption both in English and Arabic? People get frustrated by this. But to me, it's like, I actually disavow the use of the term the melting pot.
Let me explain something to white people. Our hair comes out of our head naturally in a curly pattern. So when we're straightening it to follow your beauty standards, we are trapped.
Gender's what's between your legs. Then you better be respectful, because what I have between my legs is going to turn your pronouns into what's words.
Do you think that impacts the room that we've made for a woman to be president?
Well, as we saw in this past election, sadly, we ain't ready. That's why I'm like, don't even look at me about running, because you all are lying. You're not ready for a woman. You are not.
The making words diversity and inclusion toxic, when there was just a civil rights survey that said 88% of people in America believe in diversity. The attempt to balkanize, to undermine pluralism. To me, all of that gets you on the road to fascism.
Heavily involved with the Nashville mayoral race because I hate the city, I hate the bachelorettes, I hate the pedal taverns, I hate country music, I hate all of the things that make Nashville apparently an it city to the rest of the country, but I hate it.
Senator, on that note, just I guess a question that's out there, why wouldn't they have been released the last 4 years when President Biden was in office?
Well, that's the question every American is asking. Or not every American, but so many Americans are asking. What the hell is he hiding?
I think that the two clearest ways to raise that money is through the raising of the state's corporate tax to match that of New Jersey. I think that a lot of this is still a case to be made. Whether it's the corporate tax or whether it's the personal income tax on those who make more than $1 million a year or more, I think that these are the clearest ways. I've also said that if there are other ways to raise this funding, the most important fact is that we fund it, not the question of how we do it, but that we do it.
One of the things you said recently in an interview, you said that President Trump was a vile creature, the worst thing on the face of the earth. Do you think he's different now than he was in his first term in terms of his abilities, his leadership?
By the way, I said that as a euphemism. I could have done much worse.
All right, let's get to it, man. I had 2 weeks since I've seen one of those, and I got to be honest, I didn't really need that back in my life right now.
Correct.
I mean, that was more than a penny dreadful right there. I mean, that was Dostoevsky dreadful is what that was. Okay. Wow. So Chris, as the guest, you get the first crack at this, brother. What was the most vile and disgusting thing you were just subjected to, and why?
I think my favorite thing that I enjoyed the most was understanding and getting feedback that all of the advice I have been giving women of color on how to style their hair is not appreciated and has been rejected. And I have to now go back. We're approaching the new year, my year in review, and say how to be a better person. And I will stop giving unsolicited advice to black women about how to style their hair according to my beauty standards. But my favorite, I think the worst might be the reconstituting of the Oath Keepers. It's so weird. Ever since Trump's been elected, the neocons are Democrats, and now the Oath Keepers are Democrats.
Yes.
And they're here to overturn the order, and, God bless them. Well, I'll see, though, if any of those guys end up doing the kind of disaster relief operations and emergency assistance that all the original Oath Keepers made an absolute hallmark of their service, helping people stuck in floods, helping people stuck in hurricanes, saving lives. And maybe we can get the gang back together again.
So between the four of us, we have almost 200 years probably of living as a white men in America between the four of us. Aggregate. About you and I would be well over 100.
Yep.
I'm going to guess, Chris, you're probably somewhere between 45 and 55. I'm going to guess probably somewhere in there. Is that accurate?
That's how I win carnival games. I'm almost approaching 40, but they've never gotten my age right once. I looked this old when I was 19.
That was my way of saying.
Bars.
Yeah, I stepped on that rake. That was my way of saying. I mean, you look wise beyond your years, Mr. Bedford. That was my way of saying.
Written hard
that.
and putting away wet.
Yes. Thank you. All right, I'm trying, Chris. Let me help you up. All right, for myself.
I'm broken. I admit it.
Or myself, for that matter. Okay, somewhere 170 years, the four of us have composite here, aggregate of living as white men in America. How many conversations in your life have you ever had about the need for black women to straighten their hair?
If I had a nickel, Steve. If I had a nickel.
I mean, seriously, when you got together and we're all hanging out, the old Eddie Murphy thing where he walks with his really tight butt and we all talk like this, of course. Yeah. So when we're all just hanging out and doing, we're in our, white power enclaves, how often does the topic of, black women and the need for them to straighten their hair come up? Anybody?
Now, I do know that you can get some of the best deals on white girl hair products, I've learned from the ladies, in some of the more
urban areas,
neighborhood grocery stores in D.C.
Yeah, that's a smart take. That's a life hack. That's a life hack right there. I appreciate that. Yes, you bet. Yeah.
But not only are we not bringing it up, she acts like she is.
She's Kunta Kinte the fourth.
One of many.
She's got a house at Martha's Vineyard more than the combined aggregate to total year-to-date earnings of the four of us combined. Yes.
Look at all the black Stepford women out there who are in shackles. But why, when something is actually going viral about black women on social media, it's usually like 5 of them, doing windmill fists at each other, stealing something at the $1 store or something. It's not even endemic of something that's actually going on. She's one of one. Michelle Obama, you're not
beyond insufferable.
Yes,
like beyond insufferable.
Yes,
Kamala Harris, frankly, more likable.
Most of her fellow black women are looking at her like doing what you're talking about, Willis. They don't know what she means.
Yeah, I listened to that, and number one, the first thing that I want to ask, if I had a one-on-one with Michelle Obama, I would ask her, are white beauty standards in the room with you right now, Michelle?
What did they have? Have they hurt you? Yes. All right. So, Todd, what about you? What stuck out to you in the montage? Sorry about that digression. I apologize. We shall never ever again have any form of digression about black women beauty standards. We've never had one before, and we shall never have one henceforth. Go ahead, Todd.
On our show, consistently, for a very long time now, no matter what the issue we're talking about consequences and the importance of them. And we talk about it in being a father and raising children, but it's certainly in politics and holding the high ground. And yet again, cautionary tale, if you do not have consequences, what you get in return, instead of having a party that is clearly, look at how clownish their messengers are. Multiple ones right there, right now. Yet they still believe that they have enough moral high ground to enter the conversation, like the how many of them, 5, 6 of them, who just made a glossy commercial. This wasn't just spitballing around the table, making a glossy commercial demanding members of the military engage in a coup d'etat. Because there's never any consequences. Throw someone in jail.
I love the meme of Pam Bondi. I'm seriously thinking about arresting somebody. Yeah, I love that one. That's my favorite one. And when I mean I love that, I
just like
go ahead, Chris. Go ahead.
Like if the FBI is a broken Alexa, or it's like, hey Alexa, arrest the pipe bomber, and then it comes back with, we have arrested the half-pipe snowboarder. Like, okay, that's not what I was asking.
That's not even comedy. Oh, I don't know, Chris. I think, editor, this job may be lost on you. You should be doing the Tonight Show, and because you're nailing this, you are absolutely nailing this.
I'd love to see it.
That hurt.
Yes,
that hurt. I'm on day 9. Since Cash and Dan set up this rapid response account on X. I'm guessing it was them. All right. I'm on day 9 trying to get an answer as to why the FBI whistleblowers that were announced on August 27th have been reinstated. Why they haven't actually been reinstated yet. I'm on day 9. Looking for a rapid response answer. Day 9.
Aren't you enjoying the nice emails that you're getting back, though? Those are just... We promise we are working hard to instill confidence.
Yes, I did. I got a couple of emails back from official channels.
Yes.
That's essentially what it just said.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, it takes some time to do the vetting. Well, you announced this on August 27th. It's almost November 27th. How much time does it take? Aaron, save this show. Save us, please. Go ahead.
Well, no, not a dishonor. An honorable mention for Nancy Pelosi at the end. Everybody laughed at me and said, haha, you're just being sarcastic, Aaron, when I featured her comments talking about how President Trump is the worst thing in the world. And I said I appreciated her dialing down the rhetoric back a few weeks ago when she said that. Well, bada bing, bada boom. I wasn't lying. And she agrees. She said she could have gone a lot worse with calling Donald Trump the worst thing in the world. So she deserves credit for dialing back the rhetoric. We're down from the worst thing in the cosmos to just the worst thing on planet Earth. So thank you, Nancy Pelosi. I don't think there's a better dichotomy about the left and their adherence to the worldview and the right and their adherents in some pockets, but not exactly as broad as the left. And let's go back to the very first video. The left is able to fill a church on a Wednesday night with individuals who are waiting to see and receive instructions on how to continue to help illegal aliens who have already broken the law continue to break the law. Meanwhile, on the right, one young Republican at Boston University by the name of Zach Siegel calls Immigration and Customs Enforcement on a business that is likely helping illegal aliens continue to break the law, and they themselves are likely breaking federal law by hiring illegal aliens. And Zach Siegel at Boston University gets death threats. Zach is a patriot. We need more and broader adherence to believing what we actually say we believe. Because on a random Wednesday night in Charlotte, North Carolina, the left is able to fill a church with people who are just rearing and ready to go to break federal law. We've got one guy, one young Republican, who is ready to actually help the federal government uphold federal law, and he gets death threats. I'm not sure there's a better or worse dichotomy than that.
That's why, Chris, you
didn't help. I just want to state for the record, Aaron, you did not help. Okay.
That's why Chris said about the broken Alexa is resonated, and it was only exclamation point by what Aaron said. Our response is basically Spinal Tap. We're in addressing the reality. We go over and we have this speaker. Like, yeah, look at this speaker. It now goes up to 11, and that's a Rob Reiner movie. And he says, "Well, why don't you just make the speaker louder and it just have it still be 10, but have it be louder?" No, but ours goes up to 11. That's being a Republican. We honestly have an utterly irrelevant, but we think it's a eureka answer to everything. Chris, the broken Alexa thing was the Spinal Tap of our time. Thank you.
That didn't help either.
No.
It didn't. That wasn't helpful. Let's get to the exit question on a scale of 1 to 10. With 1 being the odds, our beloved sister Jill Savage has to worry about being sexually harassed by one Lindsey Graham, and 10 being the odds, the very dapper Mr. Bedford here does.
Right now? Watch out. He's in trouble.
Watch your 6, Chris. Watch your 6. What's this week's level of total depravity, Todd?
Oh, hard 10.
It's a 10 the hard way. Aaron.
10.
Chris.
I'm turning it up to 11.
Yes.
Yes, there it is. Hey, before we get to issue 2, hey, if you are in these unprecedented times,
bing, 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 bing.
If you are really just somebody, if you're a sadomasochist, if pain is pleasure to you, if you think the Hellraiser movies are comedies, then you may be trying to get into the real estate market as we speak.
Compared to this show, they are.
All right, so if you want an agent who can help you navigate the various rings of hell known as the real estate market at this moment, where would you find one? Thankfully, there's still some left, and we're going to help you get connected with one of them at realestateagentsitrust.com with agents that often come from this very audience, so they know what Vanta Black means, right? And they also know that even in the best of times, buying and or selling a home can be one of the most stressful things you'll do in your life. So make sure, whether you're trying to get across town or across the country, do not descend into the bowels of the abyss without a trusty, handy real estate agent you can trust at realestateagentsitrust.com. All right, let's get to issue 2. Hey, our guys are running the FBI, right?
For reasons, the FBI set up a rapid response X account last week, saying in an introductory post, the agency has faced a, quote, avalanche of lies, smears, and falsehoods from the fake news and others seeking to undermine our work and national security. No FBI has had the temerity to put truth as we have. They bent the knee to the lies in the D.C. swamp, end quote. Well, fast forward through the weekend, and yet again, we have more questions than answers about pertinent stories of national interest, notably the story of the near assassination of President, then candidate, Donald Trump in Butler, Pennsylvania last summer. Tucker Carlson, in reporting partly corroborated by the New York Post, highlighted a number of oddities surrounding the story, and at nearly every step, the FBI's involvement or lack thereof stinks to high heaven. One of the most mysterious portions of that expose was when Carlson regaled the joint interview given by FBI Director Kash Patel and Deputy Director Dan Bongino, as well as part of the testimony Kash Patel gave to Congress in September.
How come we don't have more information on the assassination attempts on President Trump? There's two reasons, two open, ongoing prosecutions.
You've been personally briefed extensively on every single detail, nugget, tendril of this case. One is actively in court right now, so out of respect for the case, it's probably more appropriate that I stay quiet on that. If there was a big explosive there, right? Given my history as a Secret Service agent and my personal friendship as a director does with the president, give me one logical, sensible reason we would not have. If you can think of one, there isn't. There in some of these cases, the there you're looking for is not there.
What a baffling thing to say. Thomas Crooks is dead, of course. There was no trial against Thomas Crooks. And by the way, they weren't misspeaking. This wasn't an accident. We know that because the director of the FBI said the same thing once again under oath in front of Congress in September.
I'd like to ask you, sir, and the FBI, under your leadership, would you please respond to these questions, and can you commit to doing that?
As soon as the trial's over.
So I got to say, I have tried, man. And I'm gonna say I think I've shown an immense amount of restraint into giving these guys as much of a chance as I possibly could, particularly one of them I personally know, and Dan Bongino. But this, I don't know Kash Patel at all. He may be this dumb. I don't know that. I know Dan, though, is not. The body language in that clip with Maria is just blink 3 times if you can help me escape Gilligan's Island bad. It's just I'm running out of rationales here. You know, I know Steve Baker and Tucker Carlson both. I know they're both really smart people. I cannot possibly believe, though, that they were able to crack the pipe bomber and Thomas Matthew Crooks case faster than the entirety of the FBI under these guys' control for the better part of this year. And I'm just running out of benign, innocent explanations. I have to do my job, you know, and I can't let personal relationships get in the way of my job. It just reeks. And I just refuse to believe people are instantly this dumb. That's our favorite country song, guys. Don't pee on me and tell me it's raining. All right. So let's just start with a basic premise. Maybe I'm overreacting. True or false? The first year of the FBI under Bongino and Kash has overall been a disappointment. Chris, I'll start with you.
True. 100% true. We have not seen the actual arrests that the American people need. The investigations haven't gone to the places they ought to. It seems like a lot of outside journalists are doing a lot of the heavy lifting. And the response has been rapid response, as opposed to
they set up a Twitter
the PR
account.
Aspects,
yeah, they set up a Twitter account.
As opposed to following up.
Yeah. I just, let's go around the horn first, because I'm on the midst of an epic digression. Todd, go ahead.
Same answer as before. If you do not have consequences, put somebody in jail. Here's what this reminds me of. First season of Lost, John Locke. He's a man. He's risen from the dead. He was in a wheelchair. He's walking. You can't tell me what to do. No limits. It's kind of like getting past 2000 through 2024. All these guys serve my country again, once more into the breach. There's no limits. You can't tell me what to do. And then season 2 comes along, and the very same people. Apparently, our job is to just put this button every hour, once the hour, and I don't know why. This is what America is now.
So they became Desmond just saying they're pushing the button. Yeah.
This something about this system does this, even to great men, which just means the system, whatever it is, and I don't know either. It's like, I want to go to Washington, D.C. just to find out what happens. It's getting worse under Trump in some ways instead of better. The system needs to be blown up.
Aaron.
It's been a supreme disappointment. I mean, there have been, James Comey going through some sort of trial right now. There are others, John Bolton, those are good things. So let's not overlook those. But at the same time, when it comes, again, I go back to the joint interview on Fox News. Maybe they were misconstruing. Maybe they were talking about the Ryan Ruth trial, but that was just one trial. They said plural trials, 2 open trials. And then again before Congress, once the trial is over, And I thought that question in Congress was specifically about the Butler, Pennsylvania attempted assassination. Can we get answers on those things? Apparently not. So when it comes to the overall trajectory of this FBI, the three-letter agencies, it's just, again, I don't know, it's like some sort of seance. Apparently, once you enter that building, you just kind of lose your mind and forget what you're actually doing there. I don't understand it. There's no good explanation or benign and innocent explanation why things have been so messed up and gummed up for so long.
So they're gonna present a list of accomplishments, and they have accomplished some things, particularly when it comes to rounding up groomers and pedophiles. That's been a key focus of them, and I think they should be commended for that work. But we have to ask ourselves this question, ladies and gentlemen. I have to believe there are people that would get us answers to the things we most want answers to while doing that part of the job as well. You see what I'm trying to say? Okay. That essentially they want a lot of credit for what is doing really the baseline function of that organization's mere existence, which is, cross-continent, inter-country crime that goes across state lines, like child trafficking, for example. That's the baseline expectation for why an FBI even exists, right? That's the baseline expectation. So, I mean, that's good that you did that, but that's the baseline expectation. We could get a lot of people that would do that if empowered to do it. The reason we wanted these guys is because they demonstrated prior to getting the job that they were anxious to find the same answers we wanted answers to. And for Dan to say there, well, don't you think they won't give us answers? They don't tell us like anything.
And he's pulling a Tucker there, why we were critical of Tucker. Not because you platform Fuentes. You didn't ask any hard questions.
Yes.
We know you're better than this, Dan, because you've shown us.
I don't know that Kash Patel is. I first heard his name for the first time in my life about 2 years ago. I have no clue. And my instant reaction, frankly, in the last few years, if you just kind of emerged out of nowhere and suddenly you're a thing, I'm just instantly suspicious of everybody like that. And then there's a few people like that I've gotten to know and have become friends with, but I have instant suspicion of people just kind of instantly appeared and have huge followings and sway and get on all kinds of big shows when I couldn't have told you who they were 6 months ago. He's one of those guys. The other guy, though, I know. I've worked with the other guy. And so I know he's not this bad. I know he's not this dumb. I don't know that Kash Patel is. He could have been grifting. It's a griftathon out there. He could have been just grifting, like pimping ain't easy, grifting ain't easy from the very beginning. I know the other guy's not one of those. So I'm left with only two options, Chris. Either these people just are this dumb and we just didn't know, or they're captured by whatever has captured the FBI. I'll give you the last word, Chris. Go. I got about 2 minutes.
So Kash did some good work previously when he was a congressional investigator, and he was one of the reasons that we were able to get a lot of the answers. He was more behind the scenes, probably why you didn't see him, but we were able to get some of the answers that we got about FBI malfeasance. And it seems to me like he'd be a good person for the job based on that. But it's still entering a world that you're not of, and that's a really difficult thing to do. And Bongino's got that law enforcement pedigree. He's got an anti-deep state track record, but doesn't mean that they're not being lied to, and they don't even know that they're being lied to a lot of the times by different people who work for them. And I've
so why not take those
answers?
Take those
same thing, and Patel's.
Chris, take those whistleblowers then and bring them in and empower them to help guide you through the murky swamp. That would seem to be the kind of people you'd be looking to hire in a line around you. Wouldn't you think so? Because I kind of would.
I agree, 100%. And I think they're not bringing the allies that they need on, and they're not taking the problems they have in the FBI seriously. When you see Kash Patel tell Thomas Massey in a hearing, well, I haven't looked at these numbers, but I trust the people who work for me. That should not be his answer. There should be no trust there.
No, there should be absolutely none. Exit question quickly. Are both Kash and Dan running the FBI this time next year? Yes or no, Todd?
No.
Chris?
Nope.
Aaron?
No.
Wow, unanimous no. All right, we'll come back. We've got something else we got to fix. We'll try to do it next. All right, back here on the Steve Deace Show. Powered by our friends over at Beam. who finally answered the age-old question. You stop and think about the fact, are we alone in the universe? What's the purpose of human life? How many licks does it take to get to the center of a Tootsie Roll Pop? And what would it take for post-50 Steve Deace to sleep through the night without having to get up to pee? We now know the answer. Can't help you with the previous three, but this one, I got you. I got you on this one. It's the Beam Dream Powder. All right, get a deep, satisfying night of sleep so that you won't get up in the middle of the night to pee. You'll just have to pee really bad when you get up in the morning. Okay? Use the hot cocoa with science-backed ingredients proven to show they help you to sleep. Take that right before bed. Don't worry, it's not loaded with carbs or sugars. All right? Just a good night's sleep. And our friends over at Beam, they share the same values as you guys, and that's also why they're lowering their prices right now with their cyber sale. Get up to 50% off. So you get the Beam now for just $32.50. That's just $1.08 a night. Would you pay $1.08 a night for the best night's sleep in your life, maybe? Sure you would. And you'll do that right now if you go to shopbeam.com/Steve. That's BEAM. Go to shopbeam.com/Steve. Use the code Steve for up to 50% off during Beam's cyber sale. You can grab Dream for just $32.50, but here's the catch. That's only available at this price until it sells out. So think about it. How much would you pay for a truly great night of sleep with Beam's cyber price? It's just $1.08 per night. So go to shopbeam.com/Steve and try Beam today at shopbeam.com/Steve. As we welcome in, again, our editor, Chris Bedford, as we march on with your weekly look at the week that was. Let's continue with issue 3. How do we fix this, and can we?
It's now been a year since President Trump won his second presidential election, and vibes, unfortunately, seem to be on the downturn, at least economically. A new Rasmussen poll says 25% of voters say their finances are getting better. 39% say they're getting worse. That's down from a couple of weeks ago, but sharply from a month ago when 31% said better and 31% said worse. Following Trump's victory last year, economic pessimism has steadily declined. But 2 weeks ago, as more people felt the impact of the shutdown, pessimism spiked, according to Rasmussen. The news was mixed yesterday with a better-than-expected jobs report from September, while July and August were revised down. Also, the unemployment rate ticked up beyond expectations. Economic messaging out of the White House has been mixed, with economic advisor Kevin Hassett saying stuff like this earlier this week.
And so I think that there could be a little bit of almost a quiet time in the labor market because firms are finding that AI is making their workers so productive that they don't necessarily have to hire the new kids out of college and so on. But because there's so much output growth and income growth, that's the kind of thing that, a free market will work out relatively quickly.
Vice President J.D. Vance's words are better, pointing to concrete things the Trump administration has accomplished and asking for patience.
Some reporter, probably from ABC, yells at him and says, "What have you done about the price of eggs? The price of eggs are up 300% over the past 3 years." And it's like, it was January the 23rd. It's like, what do you mean, what have we done in 2 days? It's going to take a little bit of time to fix that problem. And so if you're an American who's just struggling to get by, you work hard, you pay your taxes, you want your kids to have good opportunities, and the price of eggs goes from $2 a dozen to $8 a dozen under the Biden administration, and then under the Trump administration, it goes from $8 a dozen to maybe $6.50 a dozen. Well, to you, that is still a major problem. And even though we've made incredible progress, we understand that there's a lot more work to do. It's going to take a little bit of time for every American to feel that economic boom, which we really do believe is coming. We believe that we're on the front end of it, but we also recognize that we've got a lot of work to do to undo the damage that Joe Biden did to the American economy.
All right. So let me just go with the question to lead off that I introduced the topic with. Pardon me. Can this be fixed, Todd?
Well, certainly not any faster than J.D. Vance lets on there, because we just have too many idols and we tell ourselves way too many lies as a people. It relates to my prediction later on. But this is why I talk about the great lie that Sports Bro has been telling, and these are Christians and conservatives, about college football. There's just too much money. There's just too much money. That's not even close to true. They're begging for money at every turn because this whole thing is unsustainable. But because they refuse to smash the idol that caused that thinking to begin with, they can't get off that train. And it keeps having consequences down the road. For example, the the same people that saying we need to do something about the economy tend to be close the borders, deport some people. Okay. Well, and they love their college football lie, though. The NCAA National Championships for cross country is tomorrow. Since all of this NIL stuff has been going on, amongst the male field in the National Cross Country Championships right now, 43% of them are foreigners. In the women's field, 38% of them are foreigners. Our current economic models have backlash over and over and over again.
You should explain to people why that's the case, because foreigners cannot receive NIL money. That's why they're taking so many foreign athletes. Go ahead.
Yeah. But if you love your idols more than you love the truth, this is what you're going
essentially
to get.
Just to explain, so essentially American athletes have been H-1B visa'd out of their own scholarship opportunities because of the cost of paying the athletes at the top end of the ladder, is what you are saying. Yeah. Okay. Chris, can we fix this? What do you think?
They better, and I've not seen much from the administration really to tackle the affordability aspects of this. I've seen some great stuff from this administration. They've done really good things, but if they don't want to all be investigated by Democrats and go to prison in 3 years with the Democrat back in the White House, then they're going to have to figure out housing. They're going to have to figure out groceries. They're going to have to figure out, it's gone from a lot of middle-income families can't go out to eat to a lot of middle-income families have to downgrade where they're getting their groceries or what they're feeding their kids or what's going on because the prices are hundreds and hundreds of dollars a week just to cook at home. Christmas gifts. We have to be careful this year about what we're getting, what we're promising. I need to figure out how talk to Santa about how he's going to get the world's strongest Nerf gun. Figure out which tariffs are on that, what's going on with that, and if the elves can make it in time. It's a extremely difficult time. Young people cannot buy homes. Their age keeps on rising. A 50-year mortgage and a lifetime of servitude to a bank is not remotely a solution. To crack down on private corporations that are buying up personal housing and turning people into lifelong renters, it's going to take congressional action. But D.C. is absolutely fiddling away right now. Well, the market is just crushing the income mobility of young people and the asset growth of young people.
That'll preach right there. Like sinners in the hand of an angry God kind of preach. Don't get me wrong. All right, but that'll preach. Aaron, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm still on the pro-tariff side, if nothing else, than the last 30 generation plus of international trade policy. Has gotten us to the point that we are in right now. So, unless you have a better idea of how to, reshore critical manufacturing and things of that nature, I'd like to hear it. In terms of the economic policy, our Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent spoke on a few occasions earlier this year about how the entire goal here is to reorient the economy from public sector to private sector. Mm-hmm. And yeah, if that's the case, this is going to be a transition period that's going to take some time. And it might cost them the midterms. And if it costs them the midterms, then it's going to cost this entire presidency, in my estimation. So if that is really true, then yeah, it's going to take some time. The American electorate, it's understandable. We're a debtor economy. We're pretty much living paycheck to paycheck. Many, many, many of us are. And many people who are just trying to make ends meet are definitely living paycheck to paycheck. They want to see some change and they want to see it faster than maybe it can come about. Mm-hmm. That's why I keep harping on economic messaging over and over and over again, because it's something that the administration can control. And yes, even though if people don't see it immediately, they'll at least maybe have a second thought that hope is on the way, relief is on the way. And so whether or not this can be fixed before the midterms, I don't know. It seems like one of the key pillars of President Trump's economic revitalization are data centers all across the country. Why do we need data centers? Because AI is burgeoning. Why is AI burgeoning? Oh, look at NVIDIA's stock price. Boy, howdy. If we reach the bubble, the AI bubble, and it bursts, right as one of the cornerstones of Trump's economic revitalization with these data centers is kind of trying to reach its zenith, that might be a bad combination. So I'm still giving the White House overall the benefit of the doubt, the administration the benefit of the doubt. I want to see, and I hope that around tax time, people are going to start to see, hey, here's some relief. But right now, it's looking pretty dour.
Aaron, that was outstanding analysis. And Chris, I've got a short amount of time, but I got to take advantage of your expertise and being in D.C. while you're here. This is the Vanta Black scenario I'm afraid of that I think is really realistic. And it just dovetails right off of what Aaron said, which is, and I'm sitting in a state right now where I've got a Democrat candidate for governor, no matter how red we've turned this state, who's running ahead in all the polling of any conceivable Republican at the moment. And I watch his messaging, and he's going to a lot of these rural areas in my state that used to vote Democrat, that under Trump we got to vote our way. And he is saying to them, all these people have for you is a data plan, a data center for AI. And he's making the case that this is actually a disruption of our way of life. These things are eyesores. He's basically saying about the data centers, and a lot of Democrats are starting to say now, what we've said about, windmill farms and that scam for many, many years, right? These things, this is just nothing other than a payout. This bubble burst. They don't care if the AI bubble bursts because they're just fine having the state do everything anyway. And so that is my fears. We're putting a lot of stock in this being the next .com boom. But we get jiu-jitsu'd by the other side, who then recovers some of the lost, stock they have in rural America by saying, this is what you're going to trade in your way of life for, is to, be a worker bee in an Indian AI data center. Am I wrong to fear that, Chris? Tell me I'm wrong.
No, you're not wrong, unfortunately. I mean, AI avoided the total apocalypse this week, but it is coming economically. The .com boom, as you remember, was followed by the .com crash. And Republicans have fallen into a lot of the same traps they fell into 20 years ago, 15, 30 years ago. I remember asking a room full of libertarians and conservatives, why do you guys back Walmart, companies that the employees are often subsidized by federal paychecks? A lot of the consumers are subsidized by corporate food stamps and the sugar lobby.
Yep.
And at the same time, they're donating to Democrats. Why do you die on that cross? And the AI guys pulled around. They bought some stuff to build this ballroom. They bought nice seats. I couldn't believe it. I was in the third or fourth row for Trump's first inauguration. You couldn't even get a ticket to the next one because it was filled out by lobbyists and all the people who poured back into town. And Republicans have said, well, this is good. It's nice to be liked. I get that feeling. It's only human. But it doesn't mean you have to follow these guys off the cliff. And that seems to be where a lot of them are leading the American people. The fact that you're buying your Christmas gifts on Amazon this year and getting an Amazon catalog when you used to get a Sears catalog. You used to go down to your local area where there was two people in the middle class who owned a toy shop or owned a drugstore or owned a grocery shop who paid their employees, a lot of them teenagers and younger people, but they're in the middle class. They were able to be income providers. They were able to go around and sponsor local sports teams and be a part of the town. You had a place where you'd actually want to be as opposed to a Walmart parking lot. That those people got left behind, and we're looking at that sort of thing again. And the Republicans' total kind of totem of just absolutely being devoted to the job creators as opposed to the people right now who are really suffering, which is the employees. That's a mistake, and I really hope they recalibrate, but I don't see a lot of the ingredients in the U.S. Senate for doing that.
All right. I'm not even going to get to the exit question. I want that just to stand on its own. Let's get to our kicker topic, issue 4. True or false? Given the political realities of where we are, the most realistic way to address spiraling healthcare costs before the next election is to repeal Obamacare regulations and subsidies and instead just make every single American eligible for a low premium plan on Medicaid if they aren't offered healthcare in their workplace. True or false? Chris, I'll start with you.
I mean, that sounds like something. Obamacare has been such a lie from the very beginning. This whole fight that's going on right now in D.C. about how to subsidize the completely unaffordable Affordable Care Act for millions of Americans is just more proof of this. But just like we said at the very time that Obamacare was passed, you don't often get repeals of provisions of new handouts to the American people, even if they totally saddle folks. And Republicans,
which is why I'm suggesting we're just going to give them the old handout we already were giving people. We're just going to do that instead. Yeah.
That's not a bad idea. It's a better idea. I couldn't believe how many Republicans in leadership had come to my old offices at the Daily Caller and presented their plans for what comes after Obamacare. And then when Obamacare was on the chopping block, no one seems to have their plans put together. I presented them years before, and all these guys were silent because they were fake plans for actually how to deal with it. It's one of the many examples of actually difficult issues that D.C. refuses to tackle.
Basically, Chris Bedford is telling you there's no chance Randy Feenstra can win the gubernatorial race as a congressman in the state of Iowa. That's what the last 10 minutes just told you. Todd, go ahead.
My answer is false. No, these Republicans can't even censure a scumbag like Corey Mills. You think they're going to walk back Obamacare, the thing that makes big pharma owning COVID possible? They're not capable of doing that. They're getting paid. They're happy. There's not a chance that it doesn't matter if it's logical, Steve. Save your logic for somebody
Understand
else.
this logic I'm not in favor of, which is a massive expansion of Medicaid. But because of what you just said, I know if we don't offer a Benny in place of the Benny we're taking away, no one will take anything away. But if we don't take it away, I don't see there's any possible way the costs come down either.
I know.
Aaron.
False. In 5 years, we're going to have whichever Republican senator replaces Mitch McConnell saying, we're going to root out single-payer root and branch.
Brutal. That is some Vanta Black for the holidays right there. All right, let's get to predictions. Todd, go. We got 2 minutes.
Yeah, the next big thing that is going to be Save College Sports. There's going to be class action lawsuits along the lines of Save Women's Sports, reflecting what I saw in cross country and elsewhere. We have to save this thing.
All right, Chris, go.
The $40 that I spent on Ken Burns' American Revolution documentary is going to feel like money wasted, and I'm going to have to take that out of Santa's paycheck.
You'd have been better off just giving it to the Algonquin tribe is what you should have done, Chris. Easy for me to say.
They invented democracy for us.
Yes,
so
they did.
That's
yes.
what I've learned.
Yes. Aaron, go ahead. Yes.
In the short term in New York City, in the long term, the next 5 to 10 years, organized crime will make a supreme resurgence in the nation's top cities, and it will be seen as a necessary evil.
I'm going to predict the Supreme Court is going to rule Donald Trump does not have the tariff power he's been exercising. And in response, we're going to create 2 more bubbles. You've seen gold grow as a response to everything Chris Bedford said for the last hour. We're going to create an even more massive gold bubble. You'll see Bitcoin will surge as well with a bubble, so that then there can be a massive dump of both later next year to try to pay off some of the debt. So make sure when that happens, make sure you sell at the peak or they're about the peak of that pump, so you're not on the opposite end of the dump. That's what I think is going to happen.
I look forward to Ken Burns' documentary about that.
Chris, thank you for spreading holiday cheer. Can't thank you enough. Thank you, man.
I try,
yeah,
I'm
I
a
know.
cheerful man.
Yeah, you're on the right show for that. Thank you. Appreciate you, man. We're coming
Glad to
back.
be here.
Hour 2 is next. It'll be your turn. Stay tuned. All right, back here at Hour 2, live and on demand on Blaze TV, radio, and podcast. I'm Steve Deace with Aaron McIntyre and Todders, and let us know what you think about what we think via the stevedeace.com inbox, which you can take advantage of, and a lot of you have. In fact, we're going to get to some of that feedback here in a moment, but you can email us now, steve@stevedeace.com. That's DEACE. Like us on Facebook, MeWe, and Gab. You can follow me at Steve Deace Show on X, Instagram, and TikTok. Also, don't forget, you can subscribe to the new YouTube channel at Deace Show on YouTube. That's at Deace Show on YouTube. And then finally, if you wouldn't mind, and you are a podcast listener, hit subscribe on the podcast platform of your choice. You can also, and thank you if you've done that. Lots of you have. You can also leave us a 5-star review, and a lot of you have done that so that the rest of the world knows how much you love our show as well. So thank you for each and every one of those. Also thank our friends over at Miracle Made for a lot of good night sleeps over the last couple of years since they came on board with their fantastic sheets crafted with NASA-inspired silver-infused fabric that helps to regulate your body temperature. And, of course, we're kind of in the change of seasons right now, late fall, heading into winter, right? So still the time of year where you might have a window or two cracked because it's like 55, 60 during the day, and then it's 25, 30 at night, right? How do you regulate that? Well, you can do it year-round with Miracle Made. These sheets are fantastic, and they're luxuriously comfortable as well. Plus, just as an added benefit, that same silver-infused fabric that helps with that thermoregulating all night long, it just so happens to kill off about 99.7% of bacteria on your sheets for you, too. All right, so upgrade your sleep or give the gift to a loved one of better rest. Go to trymiracle.com/Deace to try Miracle Made sheets today, and you'll save over 40% if you do when you use the promo code Deace, and you'll get an extra 20% off plus a free 3-piece towel set with that promo code as well. They make an amazing gift, and with a 30-day money-back guarantee, there's no risk. That's trymiracle.com/Deace with the code Deace at checkout for all of those specials and savings. That's, again, trymiracle.com/Deace, code Deace at checkout at trymiracle.com/Deace. All righty. Are we ready for some Feedback Friday?
This could be good.
Bet.
All right, let's begin. You guys remember Sheriff David Clark? It's been a few years since a couple years since I've heard of him. All right. Well, my man listens to our show, and he sent me the following email this week that I want to share with you guys in the audience. So, remember, I believe he met his wife, when they were like doing homicide detective work together, I want to say is how he met his wife. Maybe I want to double check that. Personal life. He's married. His wife, he met during a double homicide trial in the 80s. Okay. So sheriff, he's got a background here, law enforcement background. I want to get you guys' reaction to this. He says, Steve, I watched the Tucker Carlson 30-minute show on Thomas Matthew Crooks. What he detailed is what the FBI investigation should have looked like. I'm a trained homicide investigator. It's basic and elementary that you follow every single lead. As you do, a picture starts to emerge. As you asked on your show the other day, either the FBI is incompetent or hiding something, and my answer is both. I've been trained and certified in advanced interrogation techniques by the John Reed and Associates School. That interview with Maria was very telling. An interview is similar to an interrogation. Based on my training and experience in interrogation, I have a few observations. Just the way those two, Cash and Dan, sat there. They were tense. It was obvious they were rehearsed in what they were going to say. They seemed very uneasy, almost nervous. Again, we're getting this guy from a guy that has done these kinds of questionings for a career, for decades. They sat there like two kids who had been summoned to the principal's office in grade school. Maria should have interviewed them separately. My guess was that they insisted on both being there so they could hear what the other said and not contradict each other if done separately. Their answers seemed to feed off each other. The classic moment of deception was when Bongino turned it around and asked Maria why, as a former Secret Service agent in front of the president, why would he hide anything? That technique is done to throw the questioner off and maybe even become more believable. These two guys have either been co-opted or corrupted. I no longer trust or believe either one. There is no more transparency under these two than any of the previous FBI directors. On a separate note, remember when Dan first became deputy director and soon after he posted on social media that what he has learned and seen so far as to what was going on inside the FBI, quote, shook me to the core, and that he would, quote, never be the same, end quote. Well, he never elaborated on that. What exactly did he see and learn? He never really revealed that. Why not? I would add, who got arrested for what shook him to the core? Who got fired for in order to make sure it was never going to be the same? Do you guys know the answers to those questions? I'm asking that one.
No.
The sheriff concludes with this. A good question is why Trump would not want to know everything about his own assassination attempt. Yet he seems accepting of this shoddy, incomplete investigation. He always praises and compliments Secret Service and FBI agents and their work. And yet they fell asleep at the switch in Butler, Pennsylvania. To me, both of these guys are in over their heads. That's from Sheriff David Clark. Now, this goes further than I'm willing to go because I don't know. I've not done this job, okay? I just know that the body language in that interview is bad. And I know that Steve Baker and the Blaze, Steve Baker's smart and the Blaze has resources. And Tucker Carlson's smart and he's got resources. But neither one of them have the kind of resources the FBI has. There is no excuse for why we have learned more about the J6 pipe bomber scam from Steve Baker and the math club shooter from Tucker Carlson than the entirety of the Federal Bureau of Investigation. I know there's no excuse for that. All right. So I'm not willing to go as far as the sheriff is here because I don't have the experience he has. But given the experience he does have, decades working in homicide type of investigations, I thought that was a perspective worthy of our audience hearing, especially because he sent it to me and put his name on it. So that's why I'm sharing it with you. Thoughts?
I just think it's reasonable of somebody like Dan who rose to his level of stature. He was clearly not a man without accomplishment beforehand. He served his country nobly. But in terms of being a top 5 in the sphere that we work in, and then being so recognized as a truth seeker that he now holds the job now. What the standard that he set in rising to that point by what he did, and which you have acknowledged over and over again in terms of Russian collusion, it's reasonable to believe that
essentially
he should still be that guy and not on the Russian collusion side.
Essentially, Dan Bongino and Mark Levin broke the entire Russian collusion story. Those two guys basically.
So now, when you sound like you were the guy you were trying to defeat back then, yes, we're going to have lots and lots of questions.
Aaron, you have any thoughts? You want to move on? Go ahead.
Again, so what distinguishes this from the Tyler Robinson case? Well, we already have some
Tyler Robinson's still alive.
And he's still alive.
There's going to be a trial.
There's going to be a trial. We already have some facts. You can dispute them if you want to, or you can completely drum up an alternative reality, as some have done. Thomas Matthew Crooks, however, what are the facts? There have been a handful of people who have either reported or researched on their own, or reported on whistleblowers or leakers that have established some facts. Now, whether or not these facts are true, that's left up to the viewer. But at least there is some trail there that we can start to maybe put together and ask some actual questions, more basic questions about, like, who is actually Thomas Matthew Crooks. And now we've got a picture. It might not be accurate. I kind of left this out, and you can go read for it yourself. About the first 10, 15 minutes of the Tucker Carlson episode, establishing the legitimacy of some of these online accounts, I thought it was fairly compelling. I did. Maybe it's just all made up, but that's kind of the situation that you're in. Okay, now prove that they're wrong. That's not exactly the way that necessarily that a legal process works, but that's all we have to go on right now, because the institutions that we rely upon for such information are severely lacking. So I wish we had the great fear and the great unfortunate reality is if Kash Patel, Dan Bongino, came out tomorrow and said, all right, guys, here's what really happened with the Thomas Matthew Crooks thing, and produced vast troves of evidence and a narrative. Who would believe them?
Well, if we're saying that in November, whose fault would that be? Their own. With their own. I mean, listen, we didn't even bring up. Remember when they tried to bring out the video of the of Epstein's alleged suicide? Remember that earlier this year? We've completely forgotten about. Remember that they brought out the video, the surveillance video.
Yes.
All right. Then the angle that would actually show us everything somehow was not the angle we get.
Yes.
Jason Buttrell, Glenn Beck's chief researcher. Remember how he completely dissected the BS that entire thing was? Remember that?
Yes.
Okay. I'm trying. I'm doing the best I can here. But in most sporting events, 3 strikes and you're out. I mean, how many outs do we give people based on personal relationships? Okay, over and over and over and over and over again. I mean, there's either deep incompetence or something very sinister happening here. I just don't know. Tell me what other conclusion I would draw.
It's not personal. You're right. Anybody in our position, which he did what we do. If you say as strongly as you do that things can be better, they should be better, and then you want the ball, God bless you for that, really. But if we wanted that same opportunity and we took it, you would have every right to hold us accountable to very high expectations. That's all we have time for.
So since I'm going down this road, let me do this. I owe it to you as an audience. Then here's, and I haven't even shared this with Todd and Aaron, so they're going to hear it for the first time. Here is what I believe. What I believe is happening. What I believe is happening is Kash Patel is completely compromised. And the list of people who are not compromised in D.C. is way shorter than the list of people who are. Like the whole thing I said yesterday about Corey Mills, we were off the air for 2 hours yesterday, and a story breaks that Corey Mills has been funding sex parties in D.C. or sex parties going back to like 4 years ago. How many people do you think you watch on TV every night that went to those parties? That you voted for went to those parties? When people will not do what is obviously the right thing to do, or even more so, when they will not do what is obviously the most self-beneficial thing to do. None of what's happening here is self-beneficial to Kash Patel. None of it is. It's not helping him on any level at all. So then you are left with only one option. You have to assume that there is some kind of compromise here that's at risk of being exposed, that forces him to eat a poop sandwich. That in any other search situation in a 1-to-1, do you think 1-to-1 situation, Kash Patel eats this level of poop sandwich, do you think?
No.
No.
Because people are waiting to build statues
Correct.
of somebody,
Correct.
anybody.
This is how he becomes Senator Patel,
Yes.
Governor Patel, President Patel. I don't know, Exactly. So then you have to come to the conclusion then he's compromised. Because all men are the same, folks. Men hate eating poop sandwiches. And it doesn't matter if it's the guy who is the fry cook or the head of the FBI. Every man's ego hates eating the poop sandwich. He will only eat the poop sandwich, particularly in public, because the consequences of not doing so are greater than the even embarrassment of doing it. So the guy who's the breadwinner fry cook and his family's living paycheck to paycheck and they're below the median family income line in America, he's taking the poop sandwich from some 22-year-old assistant shift manager because he's got bills to pay and kids to feed, right? That's why he's going to take it.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're in Kash Patel's level and you're taking the poop sandwich, there's other things at stake that are of much higher rectitude for you. And so if I had to guess what is happening here, I think Kash is personally compromised. I think Dan knows this. And then you eventually think, but I can work around this. I can still do good with this. But then what happens is what happens to a lot of your Republicans when they get elected over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. It's a form of political Stockholm syndrome, and you start identifying more with the people that you're aligned with in the bunker than the people who sent you there to represent them. And you start saying things like, well, we got to hang together up here, or we're going to lose the next election, and our base has to vote for us anyway, so F them if they don't want, and you turn on your base. Tale as old as time. I've seen it a million times. And then Dan is left with, how much of this do I expose? If I had to guess when and if Dan returns to the world in which we inhabit, my guess is you may hear some of this. Because he's going to have to explain to people whenever it is he comes back, unless something dramatically changed. What the Sam Hill went on there? What this was it?
And to be honest, if for every one of him, there's 10 Kash Patels in the way you're describing it,
probably.
He knows I'm probably going to be the fall guy on something.
Correct. And then if you're Dan, you're left saying, well, I don't want to undermine Trump either, the overall presidency. I mean, I think Patel is absolutely compromised. And I think Dan feels like he is caught between that reality and the reality of, I certainly don't want to undermine the Trump presidency given everything. I mean, Trump right now is trying to end the Ukraine-Russia war. As we speak, he's told Ukraine, if you guys can't end this by Thanksgiving, we're out. And in fact, Zelensky just confirmed this in an address to the nation he made during the last commercial break. I was watching it. Telling the Ukrainian people, listen, we're facing a winter of the harshest winter in Ukrainian history unless we make this deal right now. We're out. Our strategic partner is out. They've lost their resolve. So if you're Dan Bongino, you actually have a conscience. You're weighing all the time things like, how much do I blow this up? Because it may cost the entire presidency, and the idea of, can we, stop a war in Ukraine? Can we close the border? You see what I'm saying? Meanwhile, the guy like Kash, who's probably compromised, he's not making those moral qualifications at all. Translation, listen when the Bible says not to be unevenly yoked. Never works out. And if I had to guess, Dan's just very unevenly yoked. So the alternative is just to sit there and look like you're a lot smarter than we all know you are.
A lot dumber, you mean?
I'm sorry, a lot dumber. Thank you. But again, that's just my working theory. Our friends at Moxie Pest Services, they've been in business now for a quarter century. Why? Because they know the little things make a big difference. Whether it's the actual service itself to make sure your home and a place of business is as pest-free as possible, and then the customer service to make sure that the people doing that for you aren't the new pests. They've got the latest cutting-edge technologies. They catch up with their technicians every day on the job to make sure that they're serving you. That's the key word there, serving you. You're not just purchasing a service from them, but they're serving you. And that's why they've been around 25 years, and they're so confident you're going to like the way they do things, that to celebrate their silver anniversary, they're offering you your first pest control service for just $25. When you go to moxieservices.com/Steve, MOXIE, moxieservices.com/Steve, use the promo code Steve. It'll cost you just $25. That's practically giving it away, but they think you're going to come back. That's why they're doing that. And it's the perfect time right now to take advantage of it. Colder weather's coming in much of the country. Those critters are looking for sanctuary, and probably in your home or business. So make sure they don't get to do that. Go to moxieservices.com/Steve, MOXIE, and then use the promo code Steve to get your first service for just $25 at moxieservices.com/Steve, promo code Steve. Let's continue on. Bonnie Rosevink writes, Steve, you had Josh Hammer on, 5 question marks. The same Josh Hammer that lied about Charlie Kirk and used Charlie's death to promote himself. This does not honor our beloved Charlie. You could have chosen a million other people to represent that side. Goodbye, and God bless your show, Mr. Deace. I'm only reading this because I got several of these, but people didn't put their name on it. And this is the one where the name was put on it. And I want to consider this an intervention. If you know Bonnie Rosevink, and listen to me, I'm being very serious. She needs help. She's in a cult, and she needs help. And I've seen this before. I've seen this quite a bit on the right. I have a friend of mine whose mom gets embroiled in a lot of this stuff. She was convinced by some QAnon website that Jesus was returning in September. Told her son for months not to do anything, not to buy anything, not to go anywhere. She was adamant. It would cause an argument if he was like, Mom, I have to, whether Jesus comes back in September or I still have to finish my race. And she was adamant.
That's still more reasonable than what Bonnie thinks.
But there's a lot of this happening right now because and you know why I read these 2 emails back to back? Because what's happened to our institutions when our own people are in charge, like the FBI, is rightfully feeding collective skepticism. But then it is more important than ever we are discerning in response. And if there's one thing Candace Owens has been doing for years, it's leading people from one scam to another. Like when she helped Kanye West leave the Democrat plantation and 5 seconds later said, hey, here's a MAGA hat, put that on and join a new plantation instead. Before he had a chance to even form his own worldview and think for himself. Because that's what grifters do. Things are a means to an end to get you to get to where you need to get to for where they need you to get to fund them. That's what it's for. If you really believe, in fact, I'm going to prove to you that you don't really believe, Bonnie, that Josh Hammer lied or killed Charlie Kirk, as Candace seemed to allege, that he had foreknowledge of it. I'm going to say the same thing I said about the entire Brett Kavanaugh hearings. Remember what I said about that? If you believe, and you have evidence, that we are about to put a marauding rapist on the U.S. Supreme Court, get off the internet and call the police. Call the police. There's no statute of limitations on rape. And I looked it up at the time. Get off the internet. Close out the message board, the Reddit forum, the QAnon board, and call the police. If you believe Josh Hammer had foreknowledge and therefore is an accessory to murder, turn off Candace Owens and call the cops. Call the cops. We have to confront this stupidity on our side. This level of retardation will make it we can't win any elections anymore in the future. Normies are going to say, I guess, you know what statism it is? You guys are retards. Because that's exactly what's happened all throughout Europe. Church went dark first, so there's no critical thinking. Universities Marxist indoctrinated, so everybody's been inculcated. And then when people on the right realized, well, this sucks and this isn't any way to live, they could not articulate any kind of governing message. They couldn't be trusted with just basic facts. And there are a bunch of retards all throughout Europe. There are a bunch of retards, reactionary retards, and they cannot win anywhere. And don't give me Nigel Farage and his 4 members of the 600-person parliament in the UK like he's on the brink of taking over or something. They just totally retarded themselves. And now they're in a corner. They can't vote themselves out. There's no peaceable means out except for like mass Tiananmen Square level protests. And then maybe at that point, if that doesn't work, you're probably looking at, revolution. Because they retarded themselves out of agency and autonomy. We cannot permit this. If you have people like this in your life, you have to confront them. You got to pray for them. But the way to confront them is start asking questions. Hey, Bonnie, why have you called the cops on Josh Hammer? Josh is a resident of the state of Florida. I think Florida's demonstrated it's a pretty law and order state, correct?
Yes, it is.
Indeed. I mean, I'd be calling, the state sheriffs in the state of Florida. Say, hey, I think you have an accessory to the most high-profile murderer of the 21st century right there in your midst, and here's my evidence.
The funny thing
Make the call. Make the call, Bonnie. Make the call. Make the call, please. Do it. And all like her, make the call. Get off the internet and call the cops. Speaking to the economic issues that Chris Bedford just brought up last hour, Tricia writes, my husband is a C-suite executive. He had abruptly lost his job in a February 2024 layoff. The hiring climate for him at this level is abysmal, as affirmed by numerous contacts. In the ensuing months, he's lost over $300K income alone. After 25 years homeschooling our kids and making 9 military moves with him, I've gone back to work where I can earn about a fourth of what he can, because she doesn't have his education and skill level. After a lifetime of living in the shadow of the boomers, we in Gen X are now wondering whether we're going to lose our dream home that we waited 25 years to buy. I've been a listener since 2020. So the boomers are going to say, we paid into this system for 5 decades. Now you're going to kneecap us, and they're morally right to say that. And the Gen Xers are going to say, we're the ones that are able to be the C-suite executives that are making the high earnings and at peak earning potential. Why in the world would you kneecap us when we're the ones that are actually going to pay the bills for everybody? Why do you think Gen Xers were the only generation that voted for Trump in the last election? Because we're the generation paying for everybody now. We're paying for the retirements of our grandparents and parents, and we're paying for our children and our teenage, college-age children to launch into adulthood. We're paying out both ends now. We're in our peak earning years. So why do you want to create an economy that makes it so that we can't flourish to be able to do that? Because if you hurt us as Gen Xers, you're hurting 3 generations at once. We're right about that too, right?
Yeah.
And then the millennials and Gen Zers are going to say, why the hell are you guys giving us all this debt and making it impossible to own a home? Because all your corporate and foreign interests bought up all the houses and want to rent them to us instead. Are they right about that?
Yeah.
Yeah. So everyone's got a legit lament, and they're all correct, right?
Yeah.
That's going to be very difficult to negotiate. And they're not just correct, they're all morally correct. They're all morally correct. It is immoral to say to boomers who paid decades into this system, now you cannot get what you paid in. That is immoral. It is immoral to say to Gen Z and to millennials, you now have to accrue the debt that you never, before one day of work, you have to accrue previous generations of debt you had nothing to do with. That there is no realistic chance of a payoff of you receiving previous generations who did take on such debt received. That's also immoral, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. Is it immoral to say to Tricia's husband, maybe we've got a foreigner with an H-1B visa that might come in and do that for $180,000 a year instead of $300K? Pretty immoral. So what do we do when every generation has a legit moral claim? And the problem is, what it would take to answer every generation's moral claim would put you at odds with answering one of the other generation's moral claims. Answer, I have no earthly idea. I do not know.
Almost like this was all by design.
Almost like it was a managed decay and a plan, like a nefarious plot, for example. Yeah, I don't know how to get out of that one, guys. You guys know I love me some Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan, but the Kobayashi Maru is not real. It's a fictional tale, and you really cannot reprogram no-win scenarios. I don't know the answer. I really don't. I don't know.
Well, the real problem is the only grown-up thing to do is actually to do hard things, and no one wants to do that. I mean, we have idols. Whether all the moral quandaries you mentioned, they are not without immoral, not necessarily you specifically, but immoral, self-imposed deal with the devils that we were going to have to pay the fiddler on sooner or later. We have too many idols.
But we couldn't even do the Doge cuts.
Yeah.
We couldn't even do the Doge cuts.
Because we have too many idols. We think because nobody has so standards, suddenly people come along and they have some standards, but very few have the standard. We love our lies. We love them.
This is the problem with a welfare state. It is the very embodiment of treason never prospers. What's the reason? Because whenever treason prospers, none dare call it treason. It is, Rush used to say that the left's idea of equality was spreading the misery. And that's essentially what a welfare state is. And it's not just SNAP benefits, but it's everything that we just articulated. And it's just one giant payday loan. But then the day comes that the loan comes due. And so you put yourself in a position if we're not willing to make the hard choices that Todd talked about, and we're not even willing to make the Doge choices. So if we're not going to do that, Chris Bedford, did you hear him last hour? He's in D.C. every single day. Holy cow. That was some Vanta Black from Chris Bedford last hour. That's our editor here at The Blaze, by the way. Okay. And he's stationed there in D.C. year round. So then you're kind of just left trying to give everybody payday loans. $1,000 here, rebate on tariffs, $1,000 there. And that's a lot of money, particularly this time of year. You're struggling to figure out how I'm going to pay, make payments on Christmas gifts, things of that nature. It goes a long way. Great. But these are essentially payday loans. We are banking quite a bit of an economic rebound on AI and data centers. But if we lose the next midterms, the Democrats are going to turn right around and say, well, we don't need all that. We can just have the government do it. That bubble goes pop. They blame that on us. It's just all the stuff that we warned for a generation would happen if we didn't address it. I keep saying it. It's like all hitting us right now. All right, back here on the Steve Deace Show, and don't just take my word for it. Aaron has used the Chef IQ. The Chef IQ Sense is actually what the device is called. And Aaron, you give it a rave review.
Yep, just used it the other night, cooking some chicken thighs out on the smoker. It is wonderful. It is so easy to use. None of those wires that get all nasty and dirty, difficult to clean, like with the typical Bluetooth temperature probe. And I just have to say, this would make a perfect Christmas gift if you've got a griller or a cook in your life.
Not to mention with Thanksgiving coming around the corner, make a pretty good Thanksgiving gift as well. All right, so it's like having a personal chef watching the stove for you. So you can just hang out with your guests. No more oven peaking, no more dried out turkeys, just perfectly cooked meals every single time. And it works for steak, chicken, fish, whatever, chicken thighs, as Aaron just told you. All right. Now you get 30% off site-wide with the code Steve at chefiq.com. That's chefiq.com. Use the promo code Steve to get 30% off at chefiq.com using the promo code Steve. All right, let's march on with some Feedback Friday. I got this one from Mark Barham. Trump's comments on H-1Bs is either a malicious lie or a grave misunderstanding of how the process really works. I've processed countless visa applications for corporations. Most visa applications I processed were either H-1B or L visas. H-1B applicants are neither more talented than Americans nor here temporarily, especially for Indians. Over 70% of H-1B visa applicants are Indian. Most of them come from colleges that are in lower educational regard than your local community college. Even the best college in India is ranked 641st globally by U.S. News and World Report. The main reason Indians are 70% of H-1B holders is the fact that they are not temporary workers. Corporations are using these visas to create 20-plus year dedicated employees who will work without complaints as they need the work visa to stay stateside. And not to mention, since they are exempt employees, they can be forced to work 50 to 60 hours a week without any overtime, which ultimately cuts the needs for additional American jobs. That I did not know. Did you know that? I did not know that.
No.
The reason a 6-year visa turns into a 20-plus year stay is due to a Chamber of Commerce-backed law from 2000, which allows H-1B holders to have endless, basically no questions asked, 1-year extensions if their corporation has filed what is called an I-140 form. And there is a backlog in processing the applications by the State Department. He put this in all bold. He said, currently the State Department is processing Indian green card applications with a priority date from 2013. Before either one of you ever came to work here, in fact.
Yep.
So odds are a company can file an I-140 form today for an Indian H-1B holder, and they will be able to stay in the United States for about 12 years, if not longer. And that's before permanent stay status is granted through a green card. And these workers who are not going to attempt to find another job and risk going back to New Delhi. And let's not forget that all dependents of an H-1B holder can also work in the United States. So what's going on with H-1B is horrific for the American worker, and sadly, it's being protected by the current administration, which hurts for me to say, as a Trump supporter. That's from Mark Barham.
Here's where Donald Trump has the same problem as Scott Walker, who, as you regularly talk about in which book you wrote, was it Truth Bombs, or he was like the star?
Rules for Patriots, the first one.
The first one, yeah, okay.
Yeah, the publisher sent back the first manuscript and said, are you just going to go ahead and endorse Scott Walker for president now? Because he's literally every positive example in this book almost.
Well, as I joked about, it turned out that when he became a hero for dealing with public sector unions, what he really has a fetish for is a really clean spreadsheet.
Mm-hmm. But it wasn't emblematic of a comprehensive worldview, you're saying.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And
he just had
But who are we talking about there?
He was triggered on a particular issue, a good issue, but yeah.
Yes. Yeah. We're talking about that, and we've all gleaned way more from Donald Trump than Scott Walker. But in this sense, they're the same guy. He sees a clean spreadsheet with these. Hey, they do good work. You pay them less. We all get along. And in New York, he's used to the cosmopolitan.
He said it again yesterday that the Americans aren't good enough to do these jobs. And our buddy Jesse Kelly sent that out and said, I think it's impossible to quantify how much Trump is hurting himself with his own base by saying this.
But he can't. And this way, he's just like Scott Walker once he started to ask questions about a comprehensive worldview, and he can't do. Steve, you can't rise above your
own worldview. Yeah.
Here we are.
I've been a loyal listener and watcher of the show since you guys started a Conservative Review. Even met you in person at the Called Conference in Moscow, Idaho years ago. Wow. Love the guys in Moscow, Idaho, by the way. However, I am taking a break from the show until the new year because you've gone back to being an assassin instead of an apostle. Todd, as ombudsman, has gone the way of SEC referees and has missed a bunch of calls, in my opinion. I like that analogy, by the way. Hopefully, in the new year, you'll get back to doing your show instead of constantly critiquing everyone else's shows and opinions. I'm not critiquing everyone else's shows and opinions. Just Candace, who is a cult leader grifter extraordinaire. I just want to quantify that. You seem to be following the path of Mark Levin, whom I revered from 2010 to 2017, and then when he got the Fox gig, his downfall began and he fell fast. I hope the growth and fame does not do the same to you and the show. P.S. I will still consume 2 hours on Thursdays as I look forward to the weekly study of Romans. It's been sensational and the most valuable part of your show for the last 2 years. See you in the new year. Respectfully, Jim Badaccio in Simpson, South Carolina. Listen, Jim's going to stay for the most important part. I'm cool with that. That's the most important work we're doing. No doubt about it. So as long as you're still tuned into that, man, God bless you as far as I'm concerned.
But if that's our most important work and we do it really well, it begs the question that maybe you're the one who isn't applying that most important work as well to the broad meta that we just got done talking about with Trump. Maybe it's you.
I will say I'm fascinated that you came to hang out with Doug Wilson, Gay Branch, Toby Sumter, Chocolate Knox, and the Moscow guys, and now you think I've got an acerbic edge. I think that actually is a compliment. If you are telling me that I have outsnarked Doug Wilson, then.
But who are you? If you're an assassin,
that's a check the box.
To your point about what you tried to clear up, though, if you're an assassin, who are you assassinating? If he's concerned about you assassinating Candace, who is out there spreading buckshot at everybody, again, I have to say, whatever you think about my refereeing, I see you and raise you.
By the way, apostles rebuked people all the time for doing the kinds of things that Candace is doing right now. Terms like slander of the brethren, divisive, useless, son of the devil. Who used those terms? The apostles used them all throughout the New Testament, actually.
See, this is what, if you're going to write this letter, you got to provide specifics. What are you really upset about?
Do you still have the email pulled up, Steve?
I just deleted it, but I can. Jim Bottacino, I think is his name.
Do you know what day it was sent on?
No.
Well, there's the diagnostic, yeah.
I don't.
Which idol did we smash?
Josh writes, I have a question on how to appropriately navigate a situation involving my family. My 3 children are all girls and are 3rd grade and below. My wife and I are Christians, and we're doing our best to point our kids to Jesus every day. A few months ago, we had new neighbors move from Tennessee to our neighborhood here in Michigan. They have a little girl the same age that's my oldest. The girl has 2 moms. We have had little interaction with them over the summer, but always cordial and very neighborly during the times we have. More recently, my oldest and the neighbor girl have been spending more time playing together in the driveway, like biking, etc., and just doing what kids do. My wife and I have been thinking about how to broach the subject of her parents to our kids. Given you and Todd may have had experience with this, how do we navigate this with our kids who may not understand our concerns? We already do not allow our kids to go into their home. Our kids have not asked about the 2 moms. Any wisdom would be greatly appreciated from Josh. So I have had a lesbian couple living next door to me for a couple of years now, but our kids were all well grown and everything by the time this came about. The age group of the children that they have is, way younger than my kids. So I've actually never had to navigate or negotiate this on this intimate of a level. Have you yet? You still have a couple of school-age kids at home, right?
Not as a neighbor, but yeah, I mean, I've been around it enough, yeah.
All right. Well, I'll let you start then. What would you say?
First of all, the oldest is a 3rd grader, you said?
Yeah, all their girls are 3rd grade and below. Yeah.
I hope by now your 3rd grader in this culture, as much as you have rightly protected her from, I hope your 3rd grader has had a 2 mommies, 2 daddies conversation by now, because you need, that's fundamental to teaching kids of the Christian faith, regardless of where we're awash in all of this 2 daddies nonsense, and we are. But specifically, you're supposed to be talking about the God-ordered way of things, no matter what. So I hope your 3rd grade daughter, this is not like something like she's seeing a unicorn. I wish it wasn't so, but by 3rd grade, she does have the computing and the moral capacity to have had this presented to her before this. So A, I hope that's the case. B, based on the evidence you've presented, you do not have to treat them like they're a leper colony, and it seems like you haven't. Like the playing outside in the driveway is just fine. I think you need to be wise as serpents and innocent as doves. If they're not inside their house, I think that part is smart. But you're just going to have to be very wary. Have conversations about that. Say the only way you can play with them, if you're honest, I'm going to have questions about what's going on. So I don't know that there's anything that's reached a level of critical mass, but make sure before this even comes to the fact that you're having conversations about your young children. This is a very weird world where people that might seem otherwise normal do very strange things, and this might be the case.
Aaron, you've got kids not quite this age, but closer. Before I chime in, you have any thoughts on this?
Yeah, so I haven't had to deal with this specifically quite yet. Just taking you through my thoughts process and in thinking through it live, I would echo much of what Todd has to say. My first instinct would not be to allow my child to play inside of a house or outside of my supervision.
Right.
So I think that's kind of the first thing that you have to consider. And I think I would even carry that over to when they get older, maybe especially when they get older, maybe into the teen years, that we know there's 2 daddies over there, or we know there's 2 mommies, and I've got a teenager and have friends with the kid, I would not allow that, especially maybe as they get a little bit older. But if they want to play in our driveway, if they want to come over to our house and play, then yes, that's something that we can definitely consider. But I think Todd's advice is right on the mark. You have to balance this. This is a mission opportunity, a witnessing opportunity, but you also have to take into account that this, if you let if you just let this go and have a laissez-faire opportunity or a laissez-faire attitude towards this, you could also be playing with fire.
Agreed. So,
which is why you have to be totally prepared to draw a line quickly, because it could come up fast.
Here, and that's where I was going to go.
Oh.
Here is the line I would suggest drawing. All right. I would draw a line that you're not comfortable as parents unless, and then there's, you know, not everybody does. I just tell your kids, hey, you don't always do everything God wants you to do. People make mistakes. You've made mistakes. That's why mom and dad have had to correct them. You've seen mom and dad do things, you know, where we don't always do what God wants us to do. That's why we all need Jesus. We're all sinners. There's something about us that makes us want to do things sometimes that God does not want us to do.
Great way of talking.
We think the best thing for you guys is to, when you go to other people's homes, to be in a situation where there's a married mom and a married dad together. Okay? Because then you can get into the cohabitive relationships and everything else, because the reality is no one conducts more abuse in the family than the live-in boyfriend does. That's just a documented fact, sure. Okay? All right? And so now you're not saying, hey, you know what, if the neighbors are hetero shacking up, then they're totally fine, and you're setting yourself up to be exposed as a hypocrite later as a parent. Don't do that.
Yep.
Just set one standard, which is if there's a married mom and dad there that we've had a chance to get to know, then, you know, we feel safe about having you guys there. If that's not the case, then we're fine if you guys want to play over here with us in our home, because we are a married mom and dad. That's our standard, okay? And that should at the very least buy you a few years. And if when the question comes up, well, why do they have two moms? You want to answer that? You know, I'm kind of a believer that kids, when they start asking the right questions, are ready for the answers. Mm-hmm. That's kind of how Amy and I have kind of done things imperfectly throughout the course of our parenting, but set one standard. And I'd say this too, by the way, you've got, you know, a buddy of mine had a situation for Thanksgiving a few years ago where his sister had sister-in-law had several failed male relationships and decided she was a lesbian in her 40s and wanted to bring her gay lover to the house. And he called me and said, what should I do? The first thing I said to him was, hey, do you let your buddies come to your house with their girlfriends and sleep over? He said, of course not. I said, okay, then you can enforce the rule. But if you do that, then you're screwed, because you're singling out one sin over the other, and you're going to walk right into the hypocrisy trap. So the best thing is just to set the standard of what God says is right now. Hold everybody accountable to it, starting with yourselves and then everybody else around you, and then go from there.
Amen.
All right, hey, when you put on a hoodie or t-shirt, you shouldn't have to wonder where it was made or how it was put together. And that's where American Giant comes in. It's a gear made right here in the United States of America with strong, beautiful craftsmanship. So every single piece lives up to what made in America really needs. And you're not just buying clothes. You're supporting a company that believes in this country. Its workers, its factories are here at home, and they're doing things the right way. All right, so get your wardrobe upgraded with something better than just throwaway material with American Giant. That's why they stand apart. And you'll get your values honored at the exact same time. Buy American today at American-Giant/Steve. American-Giant.com/Steve. Save 20% when you use my name, Steve, at checkout. That's a big discount. 20% off with my name, Steve, at checkout. When you go to American-Giant/Steve, that's American-Giant/Steve. Use the promo code Steve at checkout for 20% off. All right, we've got a little more than a minute. Any final thoughts on today's show?
Not only the show, but the week. It wasn't always a fun, happy, haha time. But I think this week was necessary. And I think Steve setting the tone that, like, the honeymoon is definitely over. And we've got to really, really dig in and talk about our closed hand priorities, because we got all kinds of definitions right now, and whatever the right is, and quite frankly, it's killing us.
The use of the term honeymoon is key. That means we're married.
Yeah.
And we want this marriage to work.
Yes.
And we need this marriage to work.
Yes.
And we are committed to making this marriage work.
Yes.
But right now, we've hit a bit of a rough patch in the said marriage.
Amen.
All right. Aaron.
Yeah, we're not permitted to be doomers, that's the new term, or just cynical by default. I don't believe under a biblical worldview. Something I've strived for this year is to be just a realist and what's accomplishable under the given set of circumstances. And we're just trying to be real this week that, just take everything out, just the economy alone. That's going to be the linchpin. If you just take away all of the noise, all of the legit, or maybe you think they're not legit, controversies on the right that everybody's bickering about online, the bottom line is this: the economy. And I think that's something going to be a major story going forward at the end of this year and into the new year.
Everybody have a great weekend. We're back again on Monday. Until then, go hard, Romans 8:28.